Hey everybody, and welcome back. In today's video, I'm going to be telling you about how to add a kickstand to your Yamaha Zuma 50cc, which is also known as the BWS in other markets, as well as the problem that this one that supposedly bolts right on does not in fact work correctly, and we're going to have to either do some cutting, grinding, or more likely welding. So let's get into it. I recently picked up this 2010 50cc two-stroke Yamaha Zuma for my wife to ride with me. It's a cool little bike. However, it has one big issue that we noticed immediately. All it comes with from the factory is a center stand. Now don't get me wrong, center stands are great. You can do maintenance. It is much more stable. It's a good thing to have on a bike. Every bike should have one. But you also want to have a regular kickstand because it is a little bit of work to get it up onto this. You got to grab the handlebars and then put a hand down here, put your foot and lift up and push it up on there. This is tough for a lot of people who don't have a lot of upper body strength, and it doesn't build confidence for a new rider having to do that every time you stop. So that's why I wanted to add a kickstand. There are two brands of kickstands that you're going to find online, and I'll link both of them in the description. I chose the one that was supposedly plug and play. You just bolt it on. And it appears to have this really nice little cutout here so that it can bolt right up into there. However, as I'm going to show you, this still interferes with the battery box, and unless you're willing to either cut this tab and grind it down more or cut your battery box, this does not just bolt right on. So how do we get this out? Well, first off, you can take this out to get to the battery box. That's real easy. Just two number 3 Phillips, or I use JIS. They work a lot better. Then there are 8 number 2s on this belly pan. You've got 2 in the back under here. Then you've got 2 going through the floor here and here. Then you've got 2 in the sides going into here, and then 2 in the front going into the front. So you take the 8 of those out, and then this comes down. And then for me to be able to get this D-ring in, let me show you the clearance here, what you're supposed to be bolting it onto. I was not able to push this up through and get this around without also undoing a couple of the deck bolts. Got one there, one there, one there, and then I undid these as well. I'm not sure if you have to undo these, especially the back one, but I did them all anyway. So there's 8 of those, and those are a number 10 millimeter. So you undo that, and then that gives you enough play. You can lift this up a little bit, and then that allows that ring, it's hard to show, but that allows that ring to go in there. So you're thinking, well, this all looks pretty good so far. But notice the clearance between the battery box and that bolt. There is absolutely no clearance at all there. Now, the other brand that does not advertise to be plug and play, it actually shows on their website very openly that you're going to have to cut your battery box to make it fit. And it has a more squared off design here. And so that one also is advertised as you have to cut this area here because the kickstand comes out straight from it, and then that makes it come out over in here. Whereas this one is offset so that you don't have to cut the belly pan. Now, this is the problem is that this doesn't actually work. So let me bolt this on and I'm going to show you the problem. So here it is, put on, bolts right up, uses a 9/16 on those 2 nuts. Looks really nice, right? Looks like it's going to work great. You can see, goes up and down, as you'd expect. However, here's the problem, is that underneath it is rubbing against the battery box, and it is pushing everything up out of proportion. And so you can see how it's pushing on it right now. Look at how skewed everything is. It doesn't look obviously apparent, but this is way up. I can fit my finger under here. This is no longer sitting correctly at all. This is a finger width high. Look at these bolt holes. You cannot put the bolts back into these. This is not going to work to be able to put this deck back down because this is too high and this is pushed basically like this. So what can you do to fix this? Well, you could take this off and grind this plate down, but it's already pretty narrow, to be honest, and then you'd have to use a narrower nut as well because this nut is already hitting the battery box as well. You could cut into the battery box, but look at how tight that is. look at where the battery is. It's pushed right up against it. So if you cut into this, you're gonna have a piece of metal rubbing on the corner of your battery all the time. I really do not like the sound of that. And then the only other issue, which I wish honestly at this point I would have went with their competitor, because the other product actually has a little tab coming off of here to catch for your shoe to catch. When you're on the bike, you're not able to push on this with your heel hardly at all, because you're hitting the airbox with your foot trying to push this down. So what I'm gonna have to do is, regardless of if I were to modify this, you'd still have to add a little tab coming out maybe 2 inches so that your heel could actually catch something to be able to put this down. This will be the last time I talk before I get this welded on, but here's what I'm talking about the problem with cutting and grinding is, look at how little area you have already. There's really not much material here. So you switch this out for a regular nut rather than a flange nut, and then you cut this down, you're basically gonna have like just a hair of metal actually left here holding this whole thing on this side. Now, of course, you'd have good bite on this side, but if you think about this centered here, what are you gaining? 1/8 of an inch? Is 1/8 of an inch going to be enough to account for it being way off? Maybe, I don't know, but I don't feel good about that. Here it is, welded up. I added that tab with a little bit of scrap, and I even put a few lines on there to give your heel some extra grip. Put a nice long bead down here between the plate and the frame. And then I'll show you underneath. They didn't turn out super pretty. I didn't have very much working room, but you can see that's welded up there. And then I welded it up on the back side here as well. I actually blew through the tube a little bit, which is why it had that dimple. So make sure that while you're welding, you're putting more of your heat into this plate, because the plate is pretty thick, and I don't think this tubing is as thick. Now I'm gonna go ahead and paint it. Put some of this black paint on. I've been enjoying this tractor paint. Seems to work better than the other paints I've used. Not sponsored or anything, but that's what I have, and that's what we're gonna use. So let's get it done. Well, that looks really nice, doesn't it? Got everything painted up. Got the plastics back on. Fits in the cutout just perfectly. Put a little grease on there so it would slide a little easier. Let's test it out. Perfect. Works great. Well, there you have it. Unfortunately, this bolt-on solution ended up being more of a weld-on solution in my opinion. However, it did give me a chance to use the multi-process from Harbor Freight. Great little welder. I like the amount of lean that you get. It isn't way straight up and down where it could fall this way, and it also isn't so far over here that it's got a ton of weight on that kickstand. Just a good amount of lean. Nice, safe, comfortable lean. You can easily take the bike, pick it up, go riding, sit it down, no problem. Works great. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. I know that we've been doing a lot of two-wheeled videos recently. What do you think? My first love was actually two wheels, and it's just this so happens that my channel's mostly been built around Toyotas and cars, but I enjoy this little scooter coming on the channel. We've got a video on my DR650 where I actually make a custom kickstand back in the day. You should go check that out if you're interested, so that you can adjust the lean angle, but this lean angle is going to work great. See you next time. Bye.